Well, hi everyone, welcome. This is Toxic Pro Sniper, and today we're going to got a video here on graphics and graphics cards for Battlefield 4. As you can see from the screenshots, they're looking pretty brilliant, and some of the gameplay shows that you are required to have a good PC system to run this game. However, how much different is it from the BF3 gameplay and graphics, and what can you actually get away with? Do you really need to update your graphics card or the CPU? So what we're going to do first is we're going to head across and have a look at the minimum specs for BF4 and see what they say you need. So interestingly enough, if you have a look at the difference between the original Battlefield 3 system requirements and the new Battlefield 4 requirements, there isn't much difference. What they're saying is, even though it's a new Frostbite engine, they're saying that you should be able to run Battlefield 4 on a PC that ran Battlefield 3. You can see here similar graphics cards, minimum 3870 or higher, or an 8800 GT. Now that's going back 3 years in terms of graphics cards. It's still an excellent card. So in terms of the processors, you can see here that the AMD slightly been upgraded by 100 Hz for Battlefield 4, but they still recommend the Intel Core 2 Duo 2.4 for a minimum and 4 gig of RAM. But the interesting thing on terms of recommended, they recommend Windows 8. Of course, Windows 7 will still do the job. They're recommending now a 6-core AMD CPU or the Intel quad-core CPU, but not being really specific on that. And they're recommending now 8 gig of memory. And they've upped the top specs to a HD 7870 and a GTX 660. So not really high-level graphics cards there required. So what we're going to do now is going to have a look at to see some of the first benchmarks that have come out and compare them with the old BF3 benchmarks. So we have 3 sets of benchmarks here going back. You can see on 3 different Core i7 or A5 systems. Now these are top-end systems, so you have to bear in mind that your system, if it's say an i750 or an AMD system, will not be able to play at the same rate, even though you might have the same graphics card. So on the left here we've got a 3690 system, which is a top-end system. We've got the old i7-965, although be it that is still super fast, and we've got the more modern i5-3570, which is classed as a mainstream system now. And you can see from this that the graphics cards here have got a slight difference in terms of frames per second. So if you've got a GTX 560 Ti, in terms of 1920 by 1200, you are pushing it to play Battlefield 3 at those specs. However, if you run it at 1680 in terms of pixels, and so drop it down one level, you will be able to play Battlefield 3. And you will know this by now if you've already got the game. However, to play it at 1980, we wouldn't recommend going any lower than a HD 7850. You can pick one of these up now for an overclocked one for around about £100 from online retailers. And you can see that the next one up, you can get a GTX 660 or the GTX 660 Ti. But they're slightly more expensive. Of the £100 cards, I would recommend in terms of the 7850, but even better to get the 2 gig one, especially for Battlefield 4. So you can see there you go. I look up at the top here, the GTX 670 really perform, and one that's really on good offer at the moment, right up here, the 7970 gigahertz. That's retailing to around about £220 in the UK. That was over £350 a few months ago. That is definitely the mid-range graphics card to have if you want to upgrade. So what we're going to do now is going to compare this with some Battlefield 4 specs that we've got from a Russian site. Let's go and have a look. So just before we go to Battlefield 4, I just wanted to show you some 1680 by 1050 shots. I'm going to put the links to these in the bottom so you can have a look for yourself, because there are a number of other benchmarks done so you can test them out. So on the left we've got slightly, on the right we've got slightly older graphics cards, but you can see if you down it On the left it's high quality, and again on the right it's high quality. If you put it down to medium settings, you will get faster speeds. But you can see most of the older cards, the old GTX 460 and even the old 560, not the 560 Ti, play Battlefield at reasonably good rates. Now remember, this is Battlefield 3. They are saying that Battlefield 4 will be the same. So let's go and have a look at what the Battlefield 4 benchmarks have come out comparing with Battlefield 3. Before I go any further with this, I've got to say that this is the only set of benchmarks on the web as of today. Of course, till the game comes out at midnight on the 1st in terms of beta users, and as soon as that comes out, I'm going to be testing 3 different cards. I'm going to be testing the 560 Ti, which I have. I'm going to test the 7850 1 gig card, and I'm also going to be testing a new graphics card that's coming in a couple of days, which is the HD 9750 anyway, gigahertz edition. In fact, it's the 7970 gigahertz edition. So I will be testing those 3 cards on the actual game, a varied number of settings to see actually what the truth is. The problem is here is you've got the old Battlefield 3 on ultra settings, and you've got the new Battlefield 4 on alpha build. This is going right back to July, so it's nowhere near the build that we're going to get in the next 24 hours. And it's 1920 by 1080 MSA times 4. That's anti-aliasing times 4, and it's at ultra settings, so it's at the maximum settings that Battlefield 4 can go to. So, however, I would say that if you stick to the Battlefield 3 on the left, I think that's a truer picture of where the frames are. I'm just going to show you this on the right because it requires some beast of a machine, and it's running on a 3970X, which is top notch. So it'll be interesting to see when we actually get some real benchmarks. I'm quite surprised we haven't got any anywhere, and that they didn't allow the game to come out just to go on benchmarks, but it's all about making sure that don't leak any versions of it. So there you go. That's at the moment, if you've got a 560 Ti, there's no way you're going to play it on ultra settings. However, I do believe, looking at previously, you'll be able to play it at 1680, and you will be able to play it around about 50 frames a second. This was just showing how hard the game is at ultra mode, and there is a major difference here in terms of Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, but I think we'll see an evening out of the frame rates once we get down to lower resolutions. So let's go and have a look at whether your CPU will make a difference on Battlefield 4. I'm going to show another chart. This is from Game GPU, a Russian site. You can't actually see these anymore. They were released and they're on the web under different blogs, but I'll give you a link to that at the bottom. So let's move on to GPUs and how they affect it. So finally, let's have a look at how your CPU will affect Battlefield frame rates. Now you've got to remember, this is the same specs, Battlefield 4 Alpha from July, and it's 1920 by 1080. And you can see here that even a i3-2100 or an FX4-100 down at the bottom, even the old X4-955BE will play Battlefield 4. So CPU-wise, yes, it's great to have a top-end 25K or a 26K or the 3950, which is not shown on here. But you can see that if you've got AMD multi-core CPUs, you're not going to have a great hit in terms of frame rates. However, if you've got an i3 530 down at the bottom or an old X2 550 combined with any graphics card, you're going to be forgetting it. But the X4 theme, the Phenom X4 and above, you can see that you can play the machine, play Battlefield. You just need a good graphics card to go with it. And for me, the important thing here is graphics card. If you're going to upgrade, my recommendation is you upgrade the graphics card rather than the CPU. If you can afford both, go for the the i5s or the i7s. They're just by far the best CPUs at the moment. You can see after an i5 25K, there's a jump in the frame rates. But there you go. That's my first introduction to graphics cards on Battlefield 4. As I say, once the game comes out on midnight, I'm going to do a load of benchmark reviews. I'm going to post them up to show you what, because I've got the 3 cards that I can use, including the 560 Ti, which I do believe will hold its own. So what I would do is just hold on to your horses a minute until we do some more benchmarks, until we actually get the real game in our hands, and then see what it is. So I hope that's taken quite a lot of effort there, and I hope you've enjoyed that. Compare it with the Battlefield 3 benchmarks, give or take a few frames per second on the same graphics card, and I think you won't go far wrong. It's just when you get into these ultra details, it's obvious that the Battlefield 4 is higher quality, but so is Battlefield 3. So there you have it. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.